Hi, good evening. This is Dr. Rodger Murphree, yourfibrodoctor.com, author of Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. So just trying to get my housekeeping straight here, make sure that everyone can get on. And we're going to be broadcasting on Facebook Live, doing a Facebook Live, as well as we are doing this on Zoom. So if you're have signed up or you are, if you have Facebook, you can go to Your Fibro Doctor and you can find me on Facebook, or if you're here on Zoom, welcome. So either way, we're going to be sharing the same content on here, and I'm just going to give it just a few minutes and let people get logged in here, and then I'll do a little intro and tell you what we're going to do tonight, and we'll get started here in just a few minutes. We should have some fun here tonight. That's my intention. I want to make sure everyone has a good time. But the most important thing, I want you to come away with this with some concrete step-by-step things that you can do to start to reverse your fibromyalgia. So things that you can do within the next few days that will help you to be able to start to reduce the symptoms that we associate with fibromyalgia. I want to give you some real concrete things that can be helpful. So we're going to have some fun, and you're going to learn some things, and I'm going to do my best to answer your questions. I'll try to. Sometimes I run out of time and it can be a little tricky. This is the first time that I've done Facebook with Zoom, but I wanted to accommodate everybody and to be able to make sure that anybody that wanted to be on here can certainly do so. It's been a few weeks. It's been, wow, it's probably been a while since I've been on Facebook Live. And so for those of you who've been asking, when am I coming back? Here I am. So over the next 4 weeks, the next Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a 4-part fibromyalgia jumpstart series. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. I'm going to give people just a few more minutes, and then I'm going to get going. For those of you that are already on here, I do want to mention that this will be recorded and it will be available on the Facebook page, Your Fibro Doctor Facebook page. So that's where it will be. Each week I will be recording that. So if you miss it, you can always go back and rewatch the recording. That'll be there on the Facebook page. Okay, I've got just 1 minute after 6, so I'm going to give it a couple more minutes, and I'll invite people to come in as they join. But I am primarily on Zoom. So if you're on Facebook, I may not be able to see your comments until I roll over to Facebook a little bit later for the Q&A session. If, and it's a real possibility, I'm not able to make that happen because technology is not my strong suit. So if I don't get over to Facebook and be able to answer your question, it's not because I intended to ignore your questions. It's just that I wasn't able to make that happen. So, all right, we still got people coming in on Zoom, but I think most people are on Facebook Live. So I want to go ahead and get started. So welcome. I'm Dr. Rodger Murphree. I'm a board-certified chiropractic physician, board-certified nutritional specialist. I've been in private practice for 30 years, and I've specialized in fibromyalgia for the last 20 years. For a number of years, I owned a very large integrated medical practice on the campus of Brook Hospital here in Birmingham, Alabama. That practice had 5 medical doctors, a very large support staff, and we worked with patients primarily in the southeast of the United States that came to see us for, a wide variety of reasons with chronic illness. Mainly the specialty was fibromyalgia. I've written my book, Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, is now in its 5th edition. The 6th edition will be coming out this spring. And make sure we got everybody. Here we go. And my practice is now solo. So I sold my medical practice several years ago, and now I practice by telemedicine. So I work with patients all over the world, either by phone call or on Zoom through the internet. I think what is so frustrating about fibromyalgia is there's so many symptoms, right? I mean, think all the symptoms that are associated with fibromyalgia: diffuse achy, sometimes disabling pain, poor sleep, irritable bowel, restless leg syndrome, fibro fog, fibro flares, low energy. These are all common symptoms that we see in fibromyalgia. And it makes it very, very difficult to treat fibromyalgia. And unfortunately, many doctors don't acknowledge that fibromyalgia is real even today in 2022, unfortunately. But fibromyalgia is very much real. And what I want to share with you tonight, this will be part one. This is a 4-part series, but part one is step one for really being able to have the opportunity, and that's really what it is. If you get this step right, it will open up the opportunity for you to make a dramatic improvement in your fibromyalgia symptoms, the majority of your fibromyalgia symptoms. Now, as I mentioned, there's a lot of symptoms associated with fibromyalgia. But if you'll do this one thing that I'm going to share with you tonight, you're going to see that you're going to dramatically reduce your pain. You're going to dramatically increase your energy. You're going to reduce your brain fog. You're going to see that your anxiety and depression, if you have a challenge with that, will improve. You'll see that oftentimes irritable bowel syndrome will go away. Certainly, when we go through the protocols over the next 4 weeks, you're going to see that all the common symptoms of fibromyalgia are going to be addressed. And if you'll follow these protocols, you will see dramatic improvement in your symptoms. That doesn't mean that everything's going to go away. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of different layers to fibromyalgia. It's like when I talk to different physicians, I talk about the process of peeling away these layers of dysfunction until you get to the core. So, and everybody's fibromyalgia is a little bit different than the next person. One person may have something else with their fibromyalgia. I mean, they could have an autoimmune disease, so they could have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, or maybe they have osteoporosis, so they have bone loss. Could have type 2 diabetes. I mean, some people have fibro and other conditions, right? So it's a process when you're treating fibromyalgia, and I've learned this the hard way over 20 years, specializing in fibromyalgia. It's a process of finding and fixing the underlying causes of fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is just a name. That's all it is. It's a name given to describe a group of symptoms that people have in common. And these are the common symptoms, but there's all sorts of symptoms associated with fibromyalgia. If we look at, here are some of the other things that can, these are the criteria for being diagnosed for fibromyalgia. You can just read that real quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. So I want to get to the nitty-gritty protocols, but you can see there's how it's diagnosed. Here's some of the minor criteria. Now, this has been updated 2 years ago. This was the 1990 American College of Rheumatology criteria right here, but it's still relevant. And I actually like this criteria better than I do the new one. But you can see generalized fatigue, but you can see here's chronic headaches, sleep disturbances, neurological, nerve pain, tingling in your hands and feet, cold hands and feet, numbness, tingling in your hands and feet, irritable bowel, fibro flares, stimulation. It doesn't matter what kind of stimulation can set you off. Depression, anxiety. Here's chemical sensitivities, allergies, chronic infections, dizziness, and balance issues. And what we hear from the conventional medical world is that this is something that you just have to learn to live with it. And, you've got all these different symptoms. And in the conventional medical world, it's all about treating symptoms. Now, there's a time and a place for that. And I'm not here to step on anybody's toes. But in conventional medicine, as far as conventional medicine, fibromyalgia, it's a dead end. And the reason why is because if you're trying to take a drug for every symptom, if you're taking a drug to put you to sleep, a drug to wake you up, a drug to slow you down, a drug to speed you up, if you're trying to treat all these different symptoms with prescription medication before you know it, if you're not careful, you're on, half a dozen to a dozen prescription drugs. And every prescription drug has a potential of causing side effects, and it can be numerous side effects. Again, there's a time and a place, and they can be helpful. Unfortunately, long term, it's been shown that prescription medications don't work. In fact, they usually make things worse because of the side effects. And this is why conventional medicine erroneously tells you that you just have to learn to live with it because they don't have anything else for fibromyalgia. It's either drug therapy that or nothing. Now, you do have some well-meaning integrative physicians out there who integrate prescription medications and natural therapies together. And that's what my clinic was at Brookwood Hospital. It was an integrated medical practice where the medical doctors who worked for me, we used prescription drugs very judiciously and naturals. But what I found out, and I found it out the hard way, is the more we relied on prescription drugs to treat the symptoms associated with fibromyalgia, the worse our patients got. Now, short term, obviously, I mean, if you take a pain pill, it helps you get out of pain. But long term, you build a tolerance to that medication. Same thing with Neurontin and Lyrica. The potential side effects of those medications are diffuse aching muscle pain, ironically, nerve pain, ironically, brain fog, incoordination, balance issues, poor sleep, poor memory, irritable bowel, anxiety, and depression. They also can cause weight gain, typically water retention and then weight gain, and they increase your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So these medications are not without side effects. And what I learned is that the less we relied on prescription medications and the potential side effects associated with those, the better my patients did. And the goal has to be to find and fix the underlying causes of the symptoms, not treat the symptoms, treat the causes. And that's what we're going to talk about in this 4-part masterclass series. It's all about treating the causes, and there's several causes of fibromyalgia. The Jumpstart series, this is what I put together years ago to help me with my patients with fibromyalgia, because early on, I didn't, when I had my first patient with fibromyalgia and she came in and she had 20 different symptoms, my first thought was, and I hate to admit this, but this is my first thought. She's a hypochondriac. That's what I thought. I thought Sheila was a hypochondriac. But the more I listened to her, the more I realized that, she had no reason to be faking all these symptoms. And so I elected to really try to learn everything I could about fibromyalgia, and I was able to help her in about 3 months. She was able to overcome fibromyalgia. Now, before you click off, because you think I'm a nutcase for saying that, let me tell you, it doesn't work that way. She was my first patient, and I erroneously, naively thought, oh, if this is fibromyalgia, this is no big deal. I quickly learned, as I started getting a bunch of referrals from my medical colleagues, that fibromyalgia wasn't a 3-month protocol and then, they're well. It doesn't work that way. What I learned is that it's a process, but I also learned from staying up many nights, worried, panic, and really in a sweat in the middle of the night, waking up thinking, oh my gosh, Jane Doe is coming in tomorrow. I went through her history. I don't know what she's got. I mean, she's been diagnosed with fibro, but she's got all these symptoms. Maybe she's got a brain tumor. Maybe she's got this. Maybe she's got that. And so early on, I did a lot of different treatments, and especially when I had the medical practice, we did intravenous IV therapy, Myers cocktails, ozone therapy, hydrogen peroxide therapy, human growth hormone therapy injections, oxytocin injections. We did acupuncture and massage and myofascial release and chiropractic. We did so many different therapies for these patients. And what I learned was there's some common underlying causes that if you will address those, you can see dramatic results within a couple of weeks. And once I realized that, it took a lot of pressure off of me thinking, oh my gosh, I got to figure this person out. The other thing that it did is it allowed me to be able to, in my books and lectures and things, to come up with a way that anybody can take the knowledge that I've learned and simplify it in a form that if you do these 4 things that I'm going to be sharing with you over the next 4 weeks, you will see dramatic improvement in your fibro symptoms. Now, there's a debate about what causes fibromyalgia. So here's some of the different things that people talk about that can create fibromyalgia. And all of these in one way or another have some relevancy and certainly have some validity. Trauma, 13% of the people who develop, 13% 13% of the people who have a motor vehicle accident, some type of whiplash, go on to develop fibromyalgia. Emotional, physical, and mental stress. I believe that stress is the catalyst for all diseases. And people will say, well, I don't really feel like I'm under stress. Your body's under stress all day long from the air that you breathe, the pollutants that come in, from the chemicals you come in contact with that you put on your skin, whether that's lotions or shampoos or conditioners or cosmetics, whatever it is, sunscreen. Even the sun itself is a stressor. Exercise is a stressor. Mental stress, emotional stress, past trauma. These are all stressors that for some people, they add up and create some type of symptom, some type of condition. And fibromyalgia, what we know is you have dysfunctional pain, and that's broken down into two categories. So allodynia, which is a medical term, which means low pain threshold. We'll talk a lot about that, because to me, this is the key for you to dramatically reduce your pain if you'll understand what I'm going to share with you tonight. Allodynia, okay, and hyperalgesia, big mouthful, just means accentuated pain. Now, these two conditions are associated with fibromyalgia. And so what we see is with fibromyalgia, you have a low pain threshold. So pain for you is magnified more so than someone who doesn't have fibromyalgia. And you also have an overstimulated nervous system so that it registers pain in a heightened way. It's on over alert. It's hyperactive. Okay. So we look at these two pain conditions. Let's see if I can get to the next one. What we talk about with fibromyalgia is central sensitization syndrome, which is basically a miscommunication between the nerve impulses of the nervous system and it is causing a problem with this miscommunication where your pain is magnified. And any kind of stimulation that you get under can create pain because you can't handle it. Your nervous system is on overload. It often means that you have a lot of internal stress and that you may have anxiety as well. So I really believe that the main cause of central sensitization pain syndrome and fibromyalgia is a dysfunction of our self-regulating systems, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals, the HPA axis. The hypothalamus is a gland. It's really just a bundle of nerves that sits in your brain, and it registers everything that's going on in a millisecond. It's constantly monitoring and responding to what's going on in your body. You don't have to think about the healthy meal that you just ate for dinner. You don't have to think about pumping blood through 60 miles of arteries and veins every minute. You don't have to think about taking 12 breaths per minute. You don't have to think about, I had a cut on my finger, it's already healed 3 days ago. You don't have to think about if you cut your finger, it healing up, or if you break your bone, that it mending. You don't have to think about if you come in contact with some type of bug, some type of pathogen, a virus or bacteria or whatever. You don't have to think about generating the white blood cells to attack this invader. Your body does that, okay? And a big part of that comes from the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals, the HPA axis, which monitors everything that's going on in your body. Now, speaking of stress, the fibromyalgia community has shared. They report that 62% of patients say emotional, physical stress preceded their symptoms. Now, again, some of you will say, well, I don't remember being under stress. It just came up. But did you have a surgery? Did you have an illness, some type of illness? Did you have the death of a loved one, loss of, a close family member? Do you take care of a special needs child, or maybe an elderly parent that, that just wears you out? You're a caregiver. You give and you give and you give and you give, you volunteer your time, or you're a caregiver. And then one day you're giving out. You've given out. You've just given everything you had. Could be a type A. You're a doer. You do and 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 you do. And then one day you're done out. So what I find with my patients is we see that there's a straw that breaks the camel's back. Something comes along and that's it, and they're never the same. And you can't fix that with drugs. You can't fix this HPA axis dysfunction with prescription medication. Now, you can treat the symptoms associated with it, and you'll see here in a minute what all the hypothalamus does. I'm out of line here with my slides, but you'll see that in just a minute. But there's no drug that can fix that. So instead, what they do is they try to address the symptoms that are supposedly being regulated by the hypothalamus, but are not. Okay, and you'll see that in just a minute. But I like to use this analogy that we're all born with a stress coping savings account. And in that stress coping savings account, we have certain chemicals that allow us to deal with stress. So we have brain chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. We have steroid hormones like cortisol and DHEA, and then vitamins and minerals that people oftentimes get a little jaded to. They think, well, vitamins aren't really necessary. Doctors will tell you that. But vitamins are what make your hormones. Magnesium, which is deficient in most anybody's fibromyalgia, the typical fibromyalgia patient has 31% less magnesium than the average person walking on the street. Now, to put that in perspective, the average person on the street is not healthy. Let's just look at our country, United States, how unhealthy most people are. Most people are deficient in magnesium. And as a fibromyalgia patient, you're 31%, even more deficient. Magnesium controls your mitochondria because it controls the ATP, your Krebs cycle, the energy, the spark plug of the cell. And when you're deficient, then you start having problems. But your stress coping chemicals, including vitamins and minerals, magnesium, B vitamins, pantothenic acid, which is the stress vitamin B5, when they become deficient, you start having problems. And all day long, we're making withdrawals from the stress coping savings account anytime we get under stress. And stress can be real or it can be imagined. And stress is in many forms. When you take that Neurontin, that's incredibly stressful to your body because it doesn't know really what to do with a prescription drug. That's foreign to it. Okay. When someone's shouting at you, obviously that's stressful. When you're watching a movie that's very, very intense, that's stress. Your body can't tell the difference. So all day long, we're under stress, and all day long, we're making withdrawals from our stress coping savings account. Now, we make deposits into our stress coping savings account when we go into deep delta wave sleep. When you go into deep sleep each night, that's when your body is repairing itself. During the night, your body's releasing DHEA, human growth hormone, and other chemicals to allow the body to be able to heal up any kind of damaged tissue. And you need to know, all day long, the body is in a process of building stuff up and breaking stuff down. So all day long, it's building bone and breaking down old bone. So during the night, your body's building healthy bone. It's also building healthy soft tissue, tendons, ligaments. It's repairing those. It's also the only time of the day when the toxic gunk that gets in your brain can be carted off. And literally during the night when you sleep, your brain shrinks so that your cerebral spinal fluid can then come in, and the lymphatic system can help pull out any kind of toxins that you built up during the day. That only happens at night. Okay, it's really important that you get deep restorative sleep. But for fibromyalgia, what happens is after years of poor sleep, stress, taking prescription medications that are creating more stress, dealing with family members and doctors that oftentimes don't understand what you're going through, may not even believe in fibromyalgia, dealing with friends that you have to, well, a lot of times, fibromyalgia robs you of your job, you can't do your job anymore, robs you of your social life because your friends don't know, are you going to be there or not? Because you've canceled so many times because, this was a bad day. You never know, if it rains, you're in a flare. If it thunderstorm or if you overdo it, you can wind up in a flare. So you lose your friends. Oftentimes, hate to say it, but you lose family members that don't understand what you're going through. You lose your, you start to lose your hobbies, the things that you love to do, not able to exercise, not able to do these things because you can't handle the stress of these things. And so now here's the slide I wanted to get to real quick. So the hypothalamus, these are this gland in your brain. Look at all the things that it controls. But when it gets under too much stress, it starts to become dysfunctional and it cannot regulate these different systems. So now you start having trouble with your sleep. Now you start having trouble with your nervous system. So you get tingling in your hands and feet, or you start getting nerve pain. It can't regulate your digestion. So now you get bloating and gas and indigestion. Can't regulate your bowel movement. So maybe you develop irritable bowel syndrome. Can't regulate your blood pressure. So maybe you have low blood pressure, orthostatic low blood pressure, or POTS disease. Or for some of you, high blood pressure. For some of you, if you've got a little bit of chronic fatigue syndrome kind of blended with your fibro, you might have a problem with your immune system. It controls all these different systems. So, and what happens is, because you've depleted your stress coping savings account, you get in a vicious cycle. Chronic stress, because you can't handle stress, you've depleted your stress coping chemicals, disrupts the HPA axis even further. That creates a low pain threshold and hyperalgesia, which I don't have in here, which means that your pain registering nervous parts of your nervous system are overreactive. Okay, so that starts to happen. This causes poor sleep. You can't get comfortable, can't wind down, so you don't sleep very well. Now get this, if you don't get a good night's sleep, you increase your inflammatory chemicals by 40%. Now you've already got inflammation. Stress and inflammation are the common denominators of any disease. That is true. And I'm guilty of saying that I didn't think that inflammation played a big role in fibromyalgia because we've not been able to see it in the blood work. I'm here to correct myself. I do believe inflammation plays a big role. Yes, I do see elevated inflammatory markers in some of my patients, elevated C-reactive protein level, probably about half the time, but that's common in a lot of people because they're carrying around too much weight. They're, doing things that are not healthy for them, and they've got a lot of inflammation. But yes, I see it in fibromyalgia. I don't see elevated SID rate or rheumatoid factors or ANA. I don't usually see that. But having said that, you have inflammation because one of the things you've got going on is this thing called oxidative stress. We all have oxidative stress. Oxidative stress creates inflammatory chemicals called free radicals. Free radicals attack their unstable molecules that then attack other molecules trying to pull electrons off to become more stable. And by doing that, they create cellular damage that then creates inflammatory chemicals like cytokines, interleukin 6 and 7 and 8, bradykinins, kinins that are released. And these inflammatory chemicals can go anywhere in your body. And in fibromyalgia, they're in your soft tissue, they're in your joints, they're all over the place. But chronic poor sleep depletes your stress coping chemical serotonin. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute, which then creates a lower pain threshold, IBS, and brain fog, as well as low moods and anxiety and low moods. So let's go. Come here. Let's go this way. Here we go. So here's something that's just super important. You get this. For those of you that have watched some of my presentations, for those of you that are in my coaching program, for those of you that are patients of mine, this is an old slide. I mean, I use this all the time, but if you get what I'm sharing with you in the next 5 or 6 minutes, you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else who has fibromyalgia and that's treating fibromyalgia. You're so far down the path. And here's the thing, you're on the right path finally. A fibro, it's not unusual to try all sorts of things, all sorts of drugs and supplements and diets and therapies to little to no long-lasting relief. So you give up. I understand. I would too, probably, maybe not. I don't know. I'm pretty tenacious. But most people are in the wrong forest. They're not even on the wrong path. They're probably in the wrong hemisphere. I'm going to get you not only in the right forest, I'm going to get you on the right path. And you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else. So get this now, when you go into deep restorative sleep, your body is making deposits into your stress coping savings account. So you're making deposits of certain chemicals that your body needs to handle stress. So you're making deposits of a brain chemical called serotonin. You're making deposits of other things I mentioned earlier, right? But serotonin is a big one. And everyone's heard of serotonin, right? It's the happy hormone. So you have serotonin in your brain, and you have even more in your intestinal tract, okay? But serotonin, this brain chemical, when your serotonin level is high, your pain threshold is high, meaning that pain is less magnified. But when your serotonin is depleted, now you see your pain threshold goes down and you have allodynia. And so pain becomes magnified. Little things that didn't bother you, aches and pains now, are really gigantic. They really bother you. It also causes your nervous system to go into hyper alert. So stress, and it doesn't matter what kind of stress, loud noises, bright lights, real imagined stress, mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress becomes magnified as well. And that creates fibro flares. It also creates pain and fatigue and all things we see. But you can see the serotonin, the higher your serotonin level, the less pain you have. The higher serotonin level, the happier you are, the less anxious you are, the more mental clarity you have, and the less likely you are to have irritable bowel syndrome. You have, as I mentioned, you have more serotonin receptors in your intestinal tract than you do in your brain. So when you get under stress and you deplete your serotonin levels, you can see you start to have problems regulating your bowel movement. So you can go, one day you're constipated, next day you have loose bowel movements, you can go back and forth, or you can be, you can be just constipated, or you can be just loose, because part of that is you've depleted these chemicals that your body needs. So here's the thing I want you to get tonight. Okay. And then I'm going to take some questions. I hope I can figure all this out, because I got two different things going. So I'll try to do my best to answer everybody's question. But the first thing you've got to get right is deep restorative sleep. A lot of times that just goes over people's head. They just go, yeah, I know. Okay. I know I need to do better. And yet they don't take any action steps because they've turned into a night owl. They don't go to bed till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because for various reasons. One reason is they're tired all day, and maybe they're in bed all day. I mean, with fibromyalgia, it can certainly make you bedridden. And oftentimes you have to choose what you're going to do because if you overdo it, you have a fibro flare. But a lot of times you're tired all day, and then you get your second wind at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and there's no way you can go to bed. That didn't just happen. That's a pattern that you've gotten in over the years. And part of that is bad habits, but also part of that could be just the illness. Okay. But deep restorative sleep, let's just talk about it. Okay. I'm going to give you some of the biochemistry and physiology reasons for this, but let's just think about it. Let's just think about it. If you go, several weeks without getting a good night's sleep, and that's what happens with fibro, you might get a rare, decent night's sleep, 5-6 hours, maybe 4 hours is probably more like it. It probably takes an hour, 2, 3 to go to bed for many of you. And then you wake up in the middle of the night for 2 or 3 hours, you can't go back to sleep. Maybe even take naps during the day, which further sabotages you. But it's important to realize if you're not sleeping well, I mean, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to be tired. That's obvious, right? If you're not sleeping well, I know for me, if I get 6 hours, I can do that 2 or 3 nights, but then I'm starting to run on empty. 7 hours are really good for me. 7 hours is good. And I can cheat that for a while, but eventually I'm going to start feeling lethargic. I'm probably going to have a headache. I'm probably going to feel like I have a hangover from my old fraternity days. I'm going to have aches and pains that normally I don't have. When you're not getting a deep restorative sleep, you're going to have fatigue. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to be more likely to feel anxious, stressed out, and depressed. You're going to be more likely to have aches and pains. As I mentioned, your inflammatory chemicals go up, but just not getting a good night's sleep, you're going to have aches and pains the next day. That's the way it is. If you're not getting a good night's sleep, you run the risk of developing irritable bowel syndrome because you further deplete serotonin. You increase the risk of having restless leg syndrome, which ironically people say, well, I can't sleep, Dr. Murphree, because I have restless leg syndrome. It wakes me up and I can't go back to sleep. Once you start going into deep restorative sleep, which I'm going to help you with tonight, you're going to see that restless leg syndrome goes away. You'll see that irritable bowel will be tremendously improved. Your pain will go dramatically down because your pain threshold is going to go up, and you're going to see your pain, as your pain threshold goes up, pain goes down. Your moods will improve. You'll see you'll have more energy because you're actually sleeping. You'll see that your brain fog will improve. Now that takes a little bit of time. So, but the decrease in pain, the energy, irritable bowel, restless leg syndrome, some of these things, your moods, you can see improvement in that within a week or two. Now, using all four of the Jumpstart protocols, and I'm going to share with you tonight all four things. I won't share them all with you tonight. We'll focus on sleep. You'll see, though, by the end of this masterclass, after these four things, if you're using these protocols, again, you're going to see dramatic improvement within 2 to 4 weeks. And then it builds on itself. It gets better and better if you're willing to start adding some other things. Diet, maybe looking at, do you have a problem with your thyroid, some of the other things that you need to address. But if you'll just do the 4 Jumpstart things I'm going to ask you to do over the next 4 weeks, you're going to see dramatic improvement. First is sleep. It's really that important. So I have patients that tell me they're taking resveratrol, they're taking this, they're doing that, doing hormone replacement therapy, they're doing all those things. And they may say they're better, oftentimes they're not, but they're usually not that much better. And I'll ask them, how's your sleep? Oh, Dr. Murphree, my sleep is terrible. I lay there for hours, I can't go to sleep. And then when I finally fall asleep at 2 a.m., I wake up 2 hours later and I can't go back to sleep. This has been going on for months, for years. The first thing you've got to get right is deep restorative sleep. I'm just telling you, you can take all the pain pills, Neurontin, Lyrica, you can try to cover up the symptoms. But if you don't get deep restorative sleep, you're going to walk around with chronic pain and fatigue, and particularly those two things, if not all the symptoms of fibro. These are the things that I learned. If we can get these right, then the common symptoms of fibromyalgia are going to be dramatically improved. If you don't go this route, you're going to be trying, hey, let me try a little of this, let me try a little of that. And that's what all of you have done. You've tried these different things, a little of this, a little of that, and it's not helped, so you give up. If you will follow these protocols, it will work. Substance P. Substance P is a hormone that becomes elevated, in particular in fibromyalgia, but it becomes elevated when your serotonin level is low. When it's elevated, when your substance P is elevated, your pain threshold goes down, you have more pain. One of the main ways that you reduce substance P is increasing your serotonin, the brain chemical serotonin. So you can read that slide there. How do you increase your serotonin? By going into deep restorative sleep. When you go into deep restorative sleep, your body's making serotonin and helping you hang on to it. Now, for some of you, you may be taking sleep medications, and these medications some of them don't put you in deep restorative sleep. Some do. The problem with sleep medications is they have potential side effects: diffuse achy pain, brain fog, irritable bowel, anxiety, depression, weight gain, incoordination, balance issues, all kinds of things can show up with these medications. So obviously, and then the big one, not to scare anybody, but the studies show that any sleep medication, whether it's Ambien, Lunesta, Lyrica, Neurontin, even the tricyclic antidepressants, and in particular, the benzodiazepine, the tranquilizers like Ativan, Valium, Klonopin, Restorative, those medications increase your risk of death by 500% across the board. Heart attack, stroke, cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just sharing that with you so that you are hopefully motivated not to stop your prescription drugs. You can't do that. But to start looking for natural options, some of which I'm going to share with you tonight. And then as you get better over the next 4 weeks using these protocols, and you continue using these protocols, you get better mentally and physically over the next couple of months, then you can start to get your doctor to help you wean down off some of these medications you're taking that are not helping, and actually are hurting. And that may be, that obviously could be the case with some of these sleep medications. Okay. So you can just see some of the potential side effects here. So here's what serotonin does. It raises your pain threshold. It helps you fall asleep and stay asleep. It regulates your moods as the happy hormone. It reduces anxiety, reduces stress, increases your mental clarity, can reduce sugar cravings, and then helps to regulate your gut motility. So it helps with IBS. So serotonin receptors. So some of you may be taking a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor like Celexa, Cymbalta, Effexor. These medications, what they're designed is to help you hang on to serotonin or norepinephrine, another brain chemical, and they help you hang on to that. The problem is that these medications don't make serotonin; they only help you hang on to what you have. But if you're riding around with an empty gasoline tank running on fumes, and you put a gasoline additive in your gasoline tank expecting it to be helpful, it's not going to do much. So if you're using a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor and there's nothing to reuptake, it's not going to do anything. And we look at the potential side effects. Let's see if I can bring this here. Well, you can't read that, can you? Sorry about that. But let me just share these with you. So they can cause, ironically, antidepressants can cause anxiety and depression, diffuse achy muscle pain, weight gain, digestive problems, mental clarity problems. They deplete your natural sleep hormone melatonin, so they can affect your sleep in a negative way. So there's all sorts of potential side effects. Now, don't stop on. I'm not telling you that. I'm just sharing this with you. And then you need to realize too that the studies show that up to 70% of the people taking an antidepressant, prescription antidepressant, are no better off than taking a placebo. Now, I don't make this up. This is the studies. Part of that is because the longer you're on these medications, the more likely you are to get a thing called down regulation, where you have less and less receptors for this drug to work. And eventually you don't have any receptors. That can happen. And then you're in trouble, right? Because you don't have any receptors. So you stay chronically depressed. So if we're looking at, this is what a normal brain looks like there on the left. If I can see if that'll pop up. Yeah. So if we have a normal brain on the left, you can see what that looks like. There's serotonin, norepinephrine, and other neurotransmitters, brain chemicals in there. And so if you put a gasoline additive in there, it can really help it work more effectively. But now let's look at a fibro brain. There's just really nothing in there. You're running on fumes, and a gasoline additive or an antidepressant isn't going to help, not for very long anyway. Eventually it quits working. Okay. Now, where does serotonin come from? So serotonin, this brain chemical, comes from protein food that we eat. In proteins, we have amino acids. So these amino acids, these chains of these molecules, there's 20 amino acids. Serotonin is one of the essential amino acids. Okay. We have to get it in our diet. If it's essential, we can't make it. So we have to get a certain amino acid in our protein called tryptophan. Okay. When we eat protein, we take in tryptophan. It combines with B vitamins and other nutrients to create serotonin. That's where it comes from. It should be coming from your diet. The problem is with fibromyalgia is that genetically, many of those with fibromyalgia cannot convert tryptophan into 5-hydroxytryptophan, the active form that then turns into serotonin. So they have a genetic glitch, just the way that God made them. They can't make that conversion. So they're always low or deficient in serotonin, which creates more pain, more brain fog, anxiety, depression, irritable bowel, restless leg syndrome, and poor sleep. So rather than taking a gasoline additive, why not just pour gasoline into your brain, or pour serotonin into your brain? That's what 5-HTP does. So when you combine the 5-HTP with the Fibro formula, which is a special formula that I developed years ago, it's changed over the years. Recently, we made the B vitamins in it methylated, so everyone can tolerate it, even if you have a problem with methylation MFHTR gene glitch. We put some CoQ10 back in there to help with oxidative stress that can help reduce pain. There's some antioxidants in there because of the oxidative stress. But the Fibro formula, which is a combination of B vitamins, magnesium, malic acid, all the amino acids, and the antioxidants, I couldn't think of that, and a special form of magnesium, that combined with 5-HTP makes serotonin. And the beauty of this is that when you start taking 5-HTP, it increases your natural sleep hormone by 200%. So let's go a little deeper here. So the Fibro formula combined with the 5-HTP creates serotonin. Okay. Now I'm going to mention delta sleep. So there's a picture of that. I'm not going to go into this next stuff, but let me get out of here. And so let's go over the protocols. Okay. For sleep. Again, not to go, a broken record, but sleep is incredibly important. It's the first thing you got to get right. Okay. If you don't, you're not going to be successful in starting to correct some of the underlying conditions associated with fibromyalgia. Some of the main causes of fibromyalgia have to do with not sleeping well, not getting that restful sleep that then generates a whole cascade of physiological and biochemical problems that then manifest themselves as symptoms. Once you start getting deep restorative sleep on a consistent basis, you're going to see that many of your fibro symptoms will improve. So here's what my protocol is for fibromyalgia and sleep. You can go on the website yourfibrodoctor.com, and you should be able to find the sleep. It could probably in a blog, which you can search through there, and you can see the sleep flow chart or good sleep hygiene. So there's some blogs that go into detail about what you should be doing to get a good night's sleep. So you need to do that. Okay. Turning down the lights as it gets dark, as it gets darker at night, winding down an hour or two before bed, making sure you're not watching TV or getting overstimulated in the bedroom. You definitely don't want to be working there. You don't want a computer in there. There's all kind of sleep hygienes. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but you can read about that at my website, yourfibrodoctor.com. There's free information about that. You need to be using good sleep hygiene, because for some of you, you're a tough case. You're a incredibly difficult insomniac. I am a recovering insomniac, ironically, but because I understood what it was like to go through that, I developed protocols that allowed me to help my patients over the last 20 years, and me, one of the tougher patients, to be able to figure that out as well. So here's the protocol to help you deep restorative sleep. Doesn't matter if you're taking, we'll go through the scenarios, but what you want to do is you want to start with 100 milligrams of 5-HTP 30 minutes before bed on an empty stomach with a little bit of grape juice. Why grape juice? The sugar in grape juice or apple juice will cause your body, that sugar will cause your body to release insulin, another hormone. That insulin will then help to pull the serotonin, that 5-HTP and serotonin, past the blood-brain barrier. You have a barrier to keep stuff out. But by using this little trick, you can see that it gets in your brain quickly and helps you start to get drowsy and then fall asleep. So you start with 100 milligrams, 30 minutes before bed, with an ounce of grape juice or apple juice mixed with water, if you want to, and you should fall asleep within 30 to 45 minutes. If you don't, then the next night you go to 200 milligrams. And then if you need it, you go to 300 milligrams. And 300 milligrams, by the way, is the therapeutic dose. That's kind of where you want to be, because that helps to do what? To make serotonin, raise your pain threshold so you have less pain. It increases your melatonin, your sleep hormone, so you're getting deeper sleep. It helps with mental clarity. It helps improve IBS. So there's several things that And I'm going to take questions here in a minute. So I can't take your questions right now. Sorry, I'll get off on a tangent. I'm like that. So with 5-HTP, you should notice that you fall asleep within 30 to 45 minutes. If you don't, then that's when you want to add something like sublingual melatonin. And sublingual melatonin, you want to start with 3 milligrams. Now, sublingual means it dissolves underneath your tongue. I like that. If you take it by capsule, it's got to take time to be broken down in your stomach, and then it's got to be absorbed, pass through your liver. And for some of you, you have problems. We're going to talk about that in one of these master classes. You have problems with your digestive system. 70% of the people who have fibro have irritable bowel. So most of you have a problem with malabsorption. You're not absorbing your nutrients, including your supplements. So you want to take sublingual melatonin. We have it at the store, on the store, yourfibrostore.com. You'll see sublingual melatonin. But you want to start with 3 milligrams along with the 5-HTP, and you keep increasing that up until 12 milligrams. Hopefully, you'll see that you'll fall asleep within 30 minutes and sleep through the night. Now, if you don't fall asleep within 45 minutes using good sleep hygiene, 5-HTP, and then if needed, sublingual melatonin, that's when you would add Delta Sleep. And Delta Sleep is a combination of all natural herbals and amino acids that I developed that has gamma-aminobutyric acid, L-theanine, ashwagandha, valerian root, a couple other things in there, synergistically blend for a certain way to make them more effective. So if you're having trouble falling asleep, you can't wind down, you can take Delta Sleep, which is very calming, very relaxing, to help you fall asleep. You still want to take 5-HTP because you have a serotonin deficiency. Anybody with fibromyalgia has serotonin deficiency. Even if you're taking an antidepressant, you still want to take 5-HTP. And yes, your doctor may tell you that you have to be careful because of serotonin syndrome. I never see it. If you start taking 5-HTP and it makes you more alert at bedtime, then don't take it at bedtime on an empty stomach. Instead, take it during the day. Take 100 milligrams at lunch for 2 or 3 days. If you don't have any problems, and you shouldn't, then you take it 100 milligrams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You take it with food, it slows down the absorption. It's still going to work. It's still going to help you increase your melatonin. It's still going to help you increase your pain threshold. It's still going to do all the things we needed to do. It's just not going to work as quickly. And so you're going to have to rely on melatonin and or Delta Sleep. For some of you, you can't take melatonin. You feel bad the next day. So you would take the Delta Sleep. Now, let's say that you're able to now fall asleep, but you're still having trouble and you can't stay asleep. Okay. If that's the case, and to put it in perspective, I mean, people say, "Oh, I get up during the night." Well, everybody gets up during the night. Okay, if you're getting 6 or 7 hours of sleep, that's pretty good for a fibromyalgia patient. Now, you want to try these natural things I'm sharing with you, so see if you can get deeper, more restorative, longer sleep. 7, 8 hours. Some of you need 9 hours or more. So definitely try these protocols. But if you are sleeping 3 hours and you start these protocols and now you're sleeping 6, that's pretty daggone good. Okay. The other thing I hear people say, "Oh yeah, I get up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep." Well, how long does it take you to go back to sleep? Oh, about 15 minutes. That's not unusual. Now, if it's happening over and over and over, that's not good. But if you get up to use the bathroom once a night and then, you fall back to sleep within 15 minutes, that's okay. That's okay. However, for those of you who were like me, who have trouble waking up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep, that's when you would use the Delta Sleep. I would not take melatonin or 5-HTP or any prescription medication during the middle of the night, because if you do, it's going to make you feel hungover, feel dopey and weird the next day. Delta Sleep won't do that. If you take Delta Sleep at 3 a.m. and you need to wake up at 6 a.m., you'll be fine. It doesn't have a long-lasting effect. So if you wake up at 3 a.m., you can take the Delta Sleep. It usually helps you go back to sleep within 15 minutes. It works really, really quick. Now, I wouldn't start with Delta Sleep, okay? I would start with the 5-HTP and the Fibro formula, because you want to make serotonin. As you do that, you'll see your melatonin level will go up naturally. If it doesn't, then add some some inexpensive sublingual melatonin. We have it on the store, yourfibrostore.com. Add that. And if you're still having trouble sleep, then add the Delta Sleep. But I can assure you that once you start sleeping better consistently, you're going to see your symptoms, most every symptom, at least the common symptoms associated with fibromyalgia, are going to improve, because that's one of the reasons why you have the symptoms. Okay. Now, can you take these supplements if you're taking prescription medications? Yes. Can you take these supplements if you're taking sleep medication? Yes. Well, Dr. Murphree, I am taking Ambien or Ativan or Lunesta or whatever it is at bedtime, and I fall asleep, so I don't really have any trouble with my sleep. No, that's not true. You have trouble with your sleep to the point that you have to take a potentially life-threatening drug. Again, not to scare you, but you have to take a drug that has all these potential side effects for you to sleep. So yes, you do have a sleeping problem. I know, Dr. Murphy, but when I take it, I fall asleep. I don't need any help helping me fall asleep or stay asleep. Okay, I understand. But you have a serotonin deficiency. That's why you have the pain, the IBS, more likely restless leg syndrome, brain fog, anxiety, and depression. You need to be taking 5-HTP, even if you're taking a sleep drug. Ideally, if you're taking a sleep drug and you're sleeping through the night, you'll start taking the 5-HTP. You'll start taking the Jumpstart supplements, the fibroform, the digestive enzyme, adrenal cortex. We'll get to those in these next series. And as you're doing better mentally and physically, then you want to work with your doctor to start to slowly wean off your sleep medication and do the natural protocols that I'm sharing with you. Okay. You want to get off these drugs, not right away, but at some point you want to get off of them. Nobody has an Ambien deficiency. Okay. So, now this is part one. Part one's all about replenishing your stress coping savings account so that you can get deep restorative sleep. You can reduce your symptoms. When you start to correct the causes of your symptoms, you'll find that as you're getting deep restorative sleep and you're making deposits into your stress coping savings account, stress is going to become less intolerable. It's going to become less an issue. Right now, for most of you, stress is magnified. Little things that normally would not have bothered you before fibro can set you off. Loud noises, bright lights, going shopping, housekeeping, vacuuming, doing the dishes, taking a shower. These things can really set you off. But once you start getting deep restorative sleep and start making deposits into your stress coping savings account, you're going to see and feel less stressed, and you're going to find you're able to tolerate more stressful situations and conditions. Okay, so now I'm going to start with Zoom. For those of you who register, I appreciate it. It's easier to work on Zoom for me than it is Facebook. So for those of you on Facebook, bear with me and I'll do my best to come over there and answer your questions. I may goof it up. I'm sorry. I want to encourage you, if you're on Facebook tonight, to next week jump on the Zoom, okay? And that I think you'll get more. I think you'll have a better chance of getting your questions answered, and it will help me. But I understand some people don't want to get on Zoom, and I totally understand that. Okay, so let's go. Let's see what we got questions here, and I'm going to take questions for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. I can go a little longer if I need to. Most people have side effects with prescription medications, and we see that's not unusual with fibromyalgia. Yeah, so some people are sharing, so I had glandular fever, incredibly stressful, right? And that stress brought on can bring on fibro for sure. So I've had fibro for 25 years, been to every kind of doctor. Yes, I agree. Conventional medicine doesn't help. I've recently started LDN, which is low dose naltrexone, which has helped with cutting my pain in half. Good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm now really struggling with weakness and I'm getting worse. I want to know what can help with that. I'm struggling with walking as well. So I want to encourage you to go to your Fibro store Jumpstart.com. You don't have to buy anything, but what I want you to do is watch those short Jumpstart videos. There's 4 of them. Now, over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be going over the Jumpstart protocols. My goal is, my hope is, you'll go ahead and start the Jumpstart supplements. You'll make that investment in yourself. You'll start those. And then over the next 4 weeks, I can help you as you're taking these supplements. I can help you with the protocols, fine tune them for you. Okay. Now, again, it's not the Jumpstart supplements were created by me to help with the common symptoms of fibromyalgia. But as I mentioned earlier, fibromyalgia is different things to different people. There's common things, the pain, the weakness, the fatigue, the brain fog, the poor sleep, irritable bowel restless syndrome. I mean, these are common. And the Jumpstart supplements and protocols are designed to start to address those. So that's where I would start. Then once you do that, it may mean, you still have weakness, or you may have tingling in your hands and feet. You may have a problem with your thyroid. Okay. And that I find about 60% of the patients I work with have a problem with their thyroid. Tuesday, March 15th, on a Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm doing a master class on thyroid. So you might want to tune into that. But to answer your question, Celeste, I would encourage you to go to yourfibrostore.com and watch those videos, those free videos. And then if it resonates with you, go ahead and start the supplements. Certainly you can stay on LDN, and that's fine. I've not had a lot of luck with LDN. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. For some people it works. I'm so happy it's working for you. Stay on it. But no one has an LDN deficiency. Now, you could have a magnesium deficiency. You probably do. Serotonin deficiency, 5-HT deficiency, amino acid deficiency, and sure you do. But no one has an LDN deficiency. Again, if it's helping, stay on it. But start adding these natural protocols to start addressing the underlying causes of your symptoms, okay? Klonopin. So Klonopin can cause all sorts of side effects: brain fog, diffuse achy muscle pain, ironically, anxiety and depression, brain fog, poor memory. It's a very long list. Tardive dyskinesia, the shakes, and unfortunately can be addictive within 2 weeks of taking it. Not to scare you, but just so you know, it's not something you want to be on, and you want to look for natural options to eventually be able to get off of that. And usually in the beginning, if you're on something like Klonopin or even a sleep medication, you can't just, you certainly can't just stop it, even an antidepressant. You have to slowly wean off of it. Okay. And I go into detail about that in the coaching program, the Fibro Rescue program, which you can learn more about that on my site. Or if you need help with that, you can set up a phone consult with me, and I can help you with that. Yeah. So, conventional doctors really don't know anything other than giving you prescription drugs. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they do. And for a lot of conditions, that's helpful and can, be successful. But fibro, it's not. If it was, we wouldn't be having this presentation here. I wouldn't be sharing this with you. So I just want to share this, and I don't pay anybody. I don't, other than compliments and appreciation. I don't pay anybody for posting anything positive, and I don't get on to anybody posting something negative. I mean, this is for all of us here to learn. But Holly is in my coaching program, the Fibro Rescue program, has been in it for a while, and she shares, for those new to Dr. Murphree and the Jumpstart protocol, I'm here to say firsthand, it really, really does work. Took a long time for me to get as sick as I was originally with fibro and chronic fatigue syndrome and a host of other issues. I've gone from 12 meds to 3, which are a must for other reasons. And there are medications you have no choice about. If you have arrhythmia, you cannot, you have to be on medication. There's certain things you can't come off of. But she's down from, how many did she say, 12 or I've gone from 12. Wow. Okay. 12 to 3. Yes, it's been a journey. Yes, I still have FMS. Yes, thanks to Dr. M and the Jumpstart protocol, I actually sleep more often than not. So she's doing well. So Jade, I talked about 5-HTP. You start with 100 milligrams, and each night you increase by 100 milligrams till you get to 300 milligrams. Okay. So you're designed to go to bed when it gets dark. We don't do that because in modern times we have lights, right? We have this false sense of daylight, but we have a hormonal system, a circadian rhythm, sleep-wake cycle that's dependent on light and darkness. And that light and darkness drives hormone reactions in our body, including melatonin and cortisol. When the sun comes up and the daylight hits your bedroom, that's when you should be waking up. So one of the things that you need to do is to have either these blinders on, these sleep mask, or you need to have blackout shades in your bedroom. You don't want any light in your bedroom. And you'll read about that. You can read about that in, did I post post that? Yeah, I posted that. You could, oh, I don't know. Let's see here. But you can see about the hygiene in the blog. So if you see in the blogs, you can just do a search for sleep, and you'll see the whole blog. I did several, I think, on sleep hygiene. 5-HTP is fine with teenagers. So I have teenagers with fibromyalgia. I have teenagers who have mood disorders, and 5-HTP is what makes that one is combined the right cofactors for those with fibro, the fibro support formula. When it's combined with that, it turns into serotonin. So yeah, there's no reason why you can't use 5-HTP. I've got kids as young as 6 on it, and as old as 86. The patient is 86. This says I use medical marijuana for insomnia, sleep, pain, and anxiety. Is it okay to keep using? And what about a stellate ganglion block to rest my parasympathetic nervous system? So the part 1 of that, if you find that medical marijuana is giving you some pain relief and helping you with your sleep, that's great. I mean, that's great. I would encourage those, before you do that, try these natural jumpstart protocols. And then if they don't work, then maybe that would be the next step. But I would do the jumpstart protocols first. But if you're already using the medical marijuana, see if you can start the jumpstart protocols and reduce your dose of the medical marijuana. There's potential problems with medical marijuana, and but push comes to shove, it's certainly better than taking Ativan or Lyrica or Neurontin or some of these other very toxic medications. Part 2, there's ways to tone down your there's ways to reset your parasympathetic nervous system. So in fibromyalgia, your sympathetic nervous system, your stimulating nervous system, is on hyper alert. That's the hyperalgesia. That's why pain's magnified. And the way that you calm that down is to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the best way to do that is deep restorative sleep. The second best way to do that is to make sure you have plenty of serotonin. And if you have any kind of anxiety issues where you feel, kind of panicky or anxious a lot, really stressed out, then to get that under control, because that nervous energy that a lot of people with fibromyalgia have is exhausting, and it further depletes your stress coping savings account. The more stress you feel, the more stress chemicals you're trying to withdraw, the further in overdraft you're going to be. Okay. So then stress becomes really magnified. So you may find you need to take something like L-theanine or GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Which are they're over-the-counter supplements. They're all natural. They're amino acids. Again, you should be getting them in your diet. But if you feel a lot of anxiety, then you need to tone that down. Getting deep restorative sleep, increasing your serotonin with the 5-HTP and the fibro formula, that multivitamin pack, will go a long ways to doing that. You might want to go, I don't know why I can't get this to post on here. Why is this not going on here? You might want to go, let's see if I can come on here. Let's see. Oh, how do I? You might want to go, let me just share this with you. Yeah, so take this down if you got a pen. Go to your Fibrodoctor, spelled out.com. Look under health conditions and take the brain function questionnaire. That will tell you what neurotransmitters, what brain chemicals you're low in. And in particular, if you have a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, it will explain to you how to get that under control. You'll also see if you're low in norepinephrine, so you don't have any ambition, drive, zip, mental energy, and physical energy, you'll see what you can take for that as well. These are over-the-counter amino acids that make these hormones that you should have, but have become depleted over the years. But take the brain function questionnaire. You'll find that at my website, yourfibrodoctor.com. Okay. Okay, let's see. So the recording will be on my Facebook page, Your Fibro Doctor. And on Facebook, the recording will be there, and I'm recording it here. So we'll see. I may share it later. So here's a question or a step. So my MD has me on sertraline for sleep. I'm sleeping better, but it's taken months. I was prescribed it for anxiety. Will the 5-HTP help with anxiety? Yes, it will, because it makes serotonin, and that's the happy hormone. That's also very calming, very relaxing. But I would also encourage you, Eileen, to take the brain function questionnaire at yourfibrodoctor.com and see what other amino acids you need. You always want to calm everything down first. So there's an all-natural supplement called GABA Plus. That's very calming, very relaxing. A lot of my patients take it, and it helps to really calm you down, relaxing. You could take it during the day. It won't make you feel dopey, sleepy, weird, won't compromise your mental clarity, but it will calm you down. In fact, it works in about 15 minutes after you take it. To me, it's certainly better than taking benzodiazepines with all the side effects. So it works very, very well, works quickly, and is safe to take. And you can take it with other prescription medications as well. Someone said LDN didn't work for them. As I mentioned earlier, I've not had a lot of luck with it. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for other people. So I don't want to discourage anybody, especially if you're taking it and you think it's helping. But no one has an LDN deficiency. But you probably have a cortisol deficiency, a serotonin deficiency, a magnesium deficiency, a B5 deficiency, digestive enzyme deficiencies. And that's what the Jumpstart protocols do. They shore up those deficiencies to start addressing the causes of your symptoms. The symptoms are just warning signs that something's wrong in your body. And those warning signs are being generated from the very things that the Jumpstart protocols are designed to fix. That's why they work so well. And that's why they work for a patient in Afghanistan, believe it or not, or a patient in Australia or here in the United States who I've never met. They've read my book, watched a class like this, found my Jumpstart protocols and are using them, and they're getting relief just by using the Jumpstart protocols. So so if you're sensitive, and a lot of patients are, yes, you can open up the capsules and you can pour them in water, start with a lower dose. Tryptophan or 5-HTP can cause you to feel nauseated the first couple of days you take it, can give you a headache the first couple of days you take it, can bother your stomach the first couple of days you take it. That's rare. I find that's about 1% of the people I work with. It can make you more mentally alert. If you take it at bedtime, that's about 1% of 1% of people usually have chronic fatigue syndrome, and that's causing that reaction. But if that happens, just take it during the day with food. If you start taking it and it bothers your stomach or gives you a little bit of a headache, give it 2 or 3 days. Ironically, 5-HTP is tremendously helpful for chronic headaches, including migraine headaches. Let's see. So Carmen, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I'm currently addicted to daily meditation and yoga. Hey, that's the kind of addiction I like. That's great. So you got some more work to do. So you're working hard. You're trying to figure it out. I want to encourage you to learn about the Jumpstart protocols, those supplements. You can find out about those at yourfibrostore.com. There's videos you can watch, but those supplements are there, and they've helped thousands of patients over the years, patients I've never even met. Now, I do work with patients one-on-one if that's something you feel like you need some help with, and you can set up a consult. You can learn more about that at yourfibrodoctor.com, or you can just go to fibroconsults.com. Thanks, Holly, for posting that. So Gene's in the coaching program. So another option is to work with me in a group coaching program, which is an inexpensive way to learn all the protocols, not just the Jumpstart protocols, but the protocols about thyroid and leaky gut and yeast overgrowth and food allergies and mast cell activation syndrome and SIBO and all other things that may be on the periphery, okay, that may need and may not need to be addressed depending on what you got going on. But it's a way that you can learn all those protocols. But if you feel like you need some hand holding, you can set up a phone consult with me. Okay, let's see. So this, Michelle says, I started the Jumpstart protocol on 5-HTP, digestive enzymes, and adrenal cortex. It made a difference until your store was out of stock for several weeks. When I went back on it, I haven't noticed it helping anymore. The enzymes help. How can I get the supplements to work again? So something is off. I would need to know what is it? I mean, it's the same, is it the same fibro formula? We've switched the fibro formula. So in the past, the fibro formula had fish oil in it. It does not now. If you're not taking fish oil, that may be part of the problem, because you can't get that in the formula we've developed now. So it could be that. Could be you need to increase the adrenal cortex, double your dose. Okay. So if you look at the Jumpstart, and we'll go over this here in a couple of weeks, or I'm not sure when we get to adrenal, I'll talk to you about how to self-test. So it could be you just need to tweak things. If it was working, it still should be working. Something's a little bit goofed, unless something's changed. Okay. Thanks, Jade. Appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Yep. I look forward to part 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. Okay. So I am going to try to close this out, and I'm going to try to get over to Facebook for just a minute. And let's see if I can, will that bring up or not? Let's see what happens here. Yes. Now, the question is, can I see your questions? That's the question. How do I get to your, there we go. So that may be the problem. I did it. Great. Okay. So I'm a little better with this than I thought. Of course, it'll probably crash here in a minute. That's what I hate about Facebook. Now, let's see. I got to go here. muted on Zoom. So you're able to hear that now or not? Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to mute Facebook. I was getting the reverb and I did it the wrong way. So you can, okay, great. Okay, good. So I went through these questions. Good. Okay. If I was muted for your question, if you didn't hear an answer to your question, please post it again. I'm sorry to make you do that, but I want to make sure I do everything I can to help you and get your questions answered. Okay, good. Good. Okay. So questions, you can hear those. Okay, great. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to wrap up here. We're about an hour and a half into it, and I've had a busy day with patients, which I love doing, having consults with patients. So I want to wrap up with this. Next week, we'll be going over part 2. Okay, I'm going to close this out. Let's see. There we go. So next week, I'll be going over part 2, and then next week will be part 3, and next week part 4. But we're going to be covering how to eliminate irritable bowel. I'm going to go into detail with you about how to fix your digestive system. So if you have reflux, GERD, heartburn, malabsorption, bloating, gas, indigestion, loose bowel movements, constipation, distended stomach, all those things that go with irritable bowel, or just a poorly functioning digestion and elimination system, I'm going to share with you how to fix that. And we're going to go into detail about it, and I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to talk to you about how to continue to dramatically reduce your pain. And we talked a lot about that tonight. So don't miss what we talked about. Sleep, yes. Okay. We talked about the importance of that because it's going to give you more energy. It's going to help with your mental clarity, help with your moods, but it also is going to dramatically help with your pain. What we're trying to do with the Jumpstart protocols, this is why they work. And other supplements, when you do them, it doesn't work because it's not done in the right way. The reason why it works is because it is raising your pain threshold, which means you have less pain. You have a condition, allodynia and hyperalgesia. And we're addressing both of those conditions with these Jumpstart protocols. We're not treating the pain, we're treating the cause of the pain, which the pain is coming from a low pain threshold. It doesn't matter if you've got some kind of old injury, scar tissue, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, autoimmune disease. It doesn't matter. Nerve damage, type 2 diabetes and nerve damage, inflammation. It doesn't matter where that inflammation is coming from. If we raise your pain threshold, you're going to be more tolerant of this trigger that's releasing this pain, to where as your pain goes up, your pain threshold goes up, your pain goes down. That's the beauty of the Jumpstart protocols. That's a big reason why they work. And we're going to build on that. Part of that is taking the Fibro formula, which has special ingredients in there to help with raising your pain threshold, reducing pain, reducing inflammation in general, helping with energy, helping your metabolism, helping your mitochondria, which are the power plants of the cells, do what they're supposed to do, help you to have relaxed muscles and be able to have a normal bowel movement. All the things that we're working on Fibro, the Fibro Jumpstart canister, the multivitamin helps with that. So we're going to go over all those things. We're going to talk about how to prevent fibro flares. We're going to talk about how you can have more energy mentally and physically by fixing your adrenal glands. We're going to talk about all those things over the next 4 weeks. I would encourage you, if any of this resonates with you, you have everything to gain and very little to lose other than an investment, to go ahead and get the Jumpstart supplements. Start taking them as soon as you get them so you can see how you do on them. And then you've got access to me over the next 3 weeks now, where I can answer your questions and help you adjust to whatever you're doing. Okay, so don't miss the opportunity to go ahead, get started on these protocols. You can get the Jumpstart supplements at your fibrostore.com. If you're overseas, you don't want to pay the shipping expense, so they understand that. Look at them and then see if you can find something similar. You're not going to be able to find the adrenal cortex. You're not going to be able to find something. You're not going to be able to find the fibroformulin, but you can find 5-HTP and you can find a digestive enzyme. So there's some places for you to start at least, okay? But if you're here in the States or North America where we ship with no problem, then I would encourage you to go ahead and start those supplements. I'd also encourage you to look at the free videos at your Fibro store underneath free videos, I think is what it's called. You might also want to look at the main website, yourfibrodoctor.com. Look at those blogs and read the blogs about sleep hygiene. I also encourage you to look under patient resources. There's a little tab and it says health conditions, and look under brain function questionnaire and take that. You're going to see you're low in serotonin, but some of you are also going to be low in gamma aminobutyric acid. You're overstimulated. That's why you feel stressed out and anxious. And you can take a natural supplement that will stop that, correct that within 15 minutes when you take it, or calm you down within 15 minutes of taking it without making you feel dopey, sleepy, or weird. And you can use these things even if you're taking prescription medications, okay? So thanks for joining me tonight. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. Hope it was informative. I hope that you got something out of it. And I look forward to hearing from you. You're being another success story using the Jumpstart supplements, or joining the coaching program, the Fibro Rescue Program, or working with me personally by setting up a phone consult or a Zoom consult here soon. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.